Cześć wszystkim, z tej strony Astrali, witam was bardzo serdecznie w kolejnym odcinku z Vampyra. Chciałam powiedzieć ze szpitala Pembroke, co w sumie nie byłoby nieprawidłowe, ale co tam. Tak, poprzednio sobie... Czy ja usłyszałam jakieś... Nie mam zielonego pojęcia. Poprzednio sobie rozmawialiśmy tutaj z mieszkańcami dla tej dzielnicy, których mamy tutaj rozpisanych. Mamy wskazówki tutaj tego, rakerz okrada zmarłych. Z tym panem sobie nie gadaliśmy, tutaj z całą trójką. Mocią panie, no jeszcze troszeczkę mamy tutaj do pogadania de facto. Jeszcze tak paru nastu ludzi. Czy coś tutaj jest? Może za kontuarem? Halo? Chyba niespecjalnie. Pani chyba nie zna mnie. No z panią już rozmawiałam. Pani Pipa, tak? Z panem nie gadałam.
Good evening, sir. Can I help you?
Unless you're here to fix my face. No. I don't think you can help me.
I'm Dr. Reid. I've recently taken the position of head surgeon here. War injuries, am I right?
You guessed right, Doctor. German shell took my pretty little mug right off. But they still call me Thomas Elwood.
Zobaczmy, co my tu mamy.
How is your stay with us, Mr. Elwood?
Oh, it's bliss. I just escaped death in the trenches to be surrounded again by the moans of the dying.
Can I ask you precisely why you're a patient here?
It's the pain, sir. The drugs don't work. It just hurts under the scars, if you get my drift.
Can I do anything for your pain?
Nurses gave me a bunch of pills. No effect. I told you. It's like the flames are under my skin, burning away.
Who is treating you? Is someone in particular looking after your case?
Nobody since the old and tired doctor spoke to me. Started to think I was forgotten about. Wouldn't blame you.
You don't seem worried by that.
My face hurts so much more when I smile or cry. I've learned it's easier not to speak. But be assured I'm smiling inside.
Why do you feel responsible for the injury, Thomas? What really happened?
I wasn't disfigured by any German shells. It happened during my leave. It was an accident.
Tell me what really happened then.
I went with a whore in Rouen. Dead drunk I was. The hotel was a shithole. There was a fire that night.
Did you start the fire? Were you trying to avoid going back to the front? That's not uncommon, you know.
No. It's just that I was asleep when the flames reached the room. The girl was long gone. Bitch never woke me up. Left me to burn.
Why lie about it?
Come on. It's one thing to come back disfigured by the Germans, and it's another to get injured in an accident that could have happened to anybody.
Beauty is not everything, Mr. Elwood.
Says Mr. Pretty Face.
To ma... O kurka, wodna wskazówka nie zadziałała? Odcie, pani, utracona wskazówka.
Why lie? Beauty
Says...
Kurka wodna, naprawdę? Nie podoba mi się to.
Where were you stationed, sir? Did you serve for long?
I really don't want to talk about all this shit.
No offense. I was pushing too much. I served in France myself. I just wanted to know what happened to you.
You were an officer, weren't you? Then I doubt we fought the same war, sir. No offense.
How close are you to Miss Hallcroft? Are you aware that she thinks she is a vampire?
To wait for her next nibble is the best reason to stay here. Every time she approaches my bed, she treats me like something tasty. A normal person.
Aren't you afraid? She may hurt you if the game goes too far.
She's quite harmless, I can assure you. Her head's broken inside is all. While I'm busted on the outside. But she's still beautiful. living proof that there's hope for me.
Ciekawe. Thelma Hawcroft stanowi dla Thomasa żywy dowód na to, że jeszcze jest dla niego nadzieja. Jestem zła za tą wskazówkę. No już doprawdy. Nie pamiętam, czy można je sobie przewrócić, czy też nie. Nie mam zielonego pojęcia, nie pamiętam, jak mówię.
So do you let her bite you? You know that's not sanitary.
And why not? She's only supping a few drops of my blood. And the pain, it's real for once.
She could decide to bite less willing patients.
And it's another good reason for me to stay here, Doctor.
Ciekawe.
You do realize she's mentally disturbed. It's called the Cotard syndrome. She truly believes she's a vampire.
In her madness, she never refers to my scars. And frankly, if I could, I'd join her world. It seems much more fun than the real one.
Aha. Nie zdobędę tej wskazówki już chyba. Jest mi smutno. No już to prawda, twoje życie w Londynie też nic. Szkoda.
Goodbye for now, Mr. Elwood.
Szkoda. Czekajcie, jeszcze z nim chciałabym
Good evening.
porozmawiać.
Soldier, do you need assistance?
I'm fine. Just do something for this pain, will you? That's all I'm asking.
Jest mi naprawdę kurka woda nieprzyjemnie w związku z tą utraconą wskazówką. Mam nadzieję, że je się da jakoś właśnie...
Goodbye for now, Mr. Elwood.
Właśnie, nie wiem, odładować, odnaleźć, cokolwiek, tylko no, nie mam zielonego pojęcia, jak to jest. Cholera wie. Czy ktoś jest do podsłuchania w tym momencie? Chyba nie. Ghostwickowie? Porozmawiajmy. To
Good
jest chyba
evening,
ten...
Mr. Hampton.
Właśnie.
How do you feel?
Dr. Reid, is it? Oh, sir, I must apologize for my behavior.
What do you mean?
I was not myself in the factory. Fear and exhaustion made me say awful things to you, I'm afraid.
You remained perfectly nice and polite. A little delirious, perhaps. But who wouldn't be after enduring an abduction?
Thank you, Doctor. That's a relief. Now all I need to do is rest and return to my flock.
Tak mówisz, Hampton.
What is the general situation in the East End docks?
The situation has always been tough, with a lot of tensions between the gangs and the Dockers' trade union. The Wet Boot Boys are very nervous since they lost their leader.
Has the gang been threatening you?
Ah, no. I've had this nickname for so long, you know, the sad saint of the East End. No one dares to bug a saint, not even criminals.
Ciekawe.
Who leads the gang now?
Since Clay Cox went missing, it's his wife Edwina who runs the show, with the assistance of her minion, Booth Digby.
Clay Cox, mówisz? Chyba go znam.
How did you end up in William Bishop's den?
I had received alarming news about his recent behavior. I went to his place and he refused to let me go.
Why did he abduct you?
William was an alcoholic. His addiction suddenly changed to blood. I don't know why. Just like a patient I met here. This Miss Hawcroft.
You dared to enter this awful place alone. You're a hero, Mr. Hampton. Or a fool.
I'm just a man trying to help his friends, Dr. Reid. William Bishop was a conflicted soul, searching for light.
Do you know Tom Watts, the bartender from the Turtle? I met him before I found you in the canning factory.
Tom? Yes, of course. Always the helping hand, good old Tom. Without men like him, corruption and despair would have wiped out the East End long ago.
People are still in despair.
How could it be otherwise? The authorities have left us all to rot in this contagious nightmare. No drugs, no advice, nothing. It's a damn shame.
Who should I avoid in this part of town, then? Any particularly evil figures?
Not really. Most men and women are just doing their best. And it's not my habit to speak ill of people I know, Doctor.
Goodbye, Mr. Hampton.
Kurczę, nie porozmawiałam z nim na wszystko chyba,
Hello?
tak mi się wydaje. Osobiste pytania, właśnie.
Have you made friends since you arrived?
Not really. But I recognize Miss Harriet Jones. I knew her when she lived by the docks. That poor woman had such a miserable life.
You never came to see her here at Pembroke? Receiving visits when sick can be an important part of the healing process, you know. We're not just bodies.
You're preaching to the converted now, Doctor. To be truly honest, I thought she was dead. She left the docks many months ago.
What do you do for a living, Mr. Hampton? I can't help but notice the cross around your neck.
I manage a night asylum for the poor and homeless of the docks, and I try to guide the lost and hesitant on the right path to our Lord.
Are you a priest, Mr. Hampton? A deacon, maybe?
Not at all, Doctor. I'm just a man of faith willing to preach the good word.
Why didn't you use your cross against William Bishop? To repel him somehow?
That's a very strange question, Doctor. A cross is no magical token, if that's what you were trying to say. Not mine, anyway.
Okej, tak mówisz.
How do you feel, Mr. Hampton? Medically speaking, I mean.
I feel exhausted. Beyond exhaustion, actually. William drank so much of my blood in his madness. I feel empty.
You're in good hands here. Dr. Swansea is well versed in blood transfusion, and I'm sure he'll take the best care of you.
Thank you, sir. I believe all I need is rest. And then I can go back to the people who need me.
Tak mówisz. No dobra, to w takim razie żegnamy.
Goodbye, Mr. Hampton. We'll talk again later.
Dokładnie, wyjdź do starej tam kostnicy, bla bla bla. Tutaj jest zamknięte, nieznany. Ale mi jest kurka wodna, przykro, panie, to wszystko przez ciebie. Kurde bela, no bez kitu, no przykro mi jest przez tego typa. Ojojoj. Najciekawsze jest to, że niektóre wskazówki też się odblokowują jakby w rozmowie z niektórymi, również przez rozmowę z innymi, że tak to ujmę, najczęściej w kręgu społecznym, dlatego spróbujmy porozmawiać z Telmą. Sobie właśnie kurka wodna. Chciałam sobie po prostu pominąć przywitanie. Chciałam zobaczyć twoje życie w Londynie jeszcze. Aha, czyli nie. No dobra. Ale mogę to.
Tell me, Thelma, why do you feel so attached to Mr. Elwood? Why him?
I'm not sure, Doctor. I think we have a bond of some sort. We've both suffered so much. He's the only mortal I find interesting.
Do you plan to make him a vampire too?
Of course not. How could I inflict my curse on anybody else? I'm not that cruel, Doctor.
Would you say you and Mr. Elwood are romantically involved?
No. No, Thomas is a delicate soul. Even though he disguises it. But I am not the woman he needs. No, for I am a vampire, Doctor.
No dobra. W takim razie jeszcze coś jest ze wskazówką związane.
I'll
No to
leave
żegnam.
you, Mistress of the Dark, to your
Ajajaj. Czyli właśnie jedna rzecz się niestety nie udała, bo... Czy ja tu byłam? Nie mam pojęcia. Chyba nie. Ajajaj. Dobra, aż się kichnęło. Widzę, że tutaj jakoś też powinna mieć w związku ze śledztwem. To sobie tam pójdę, tylko troszeczkę później. Gdzie mnie jeszcze nie było?
The life running in your veins. This dead flesh needs it.
Oh, please spare me, Dark Queen. Spare your obedient slave.
O, ciekawe. Tak, tutaj jest zamknięte. Z tymi rozmawiałam. Tutaj jest w ogóle jakiś papier o czosnku i drewnianych kołkach. Drodzy bracia, chciałabym zwrócić waszą uwagę na pewną niezwykle ważną kwestię. Wykorzystanie czosnku do obrony przeciwko wampirom. Powiedzmy sobie jasno, czosnek nigdy was przed nimi nie ochroni. Nawet najświeższy, najmocniejszy i najbardziej aromatyczny czosnek jest absolutnie bezużyteczną formą tarczy. Powieść Brama Stokera wyrządziła w tej materii wiele szkód. Tak, oczywiście w niektórych krajach słowiańskich umieszczono się ząbki czosnku w trumnach. Tak, jak oczywiście mieszkańcy wyspy Santorini wieszają czosnek na oknach. Wiele można by napisać na temat tego miejsca i mam nadzieję, że kiedyś będę mógł jeszcze głębiej zbadać jego okultystyczne tradycje. Nie robią tego jednak dla ochrony przed diabłem, lecz żeby powiedzieć zmarłym, że są świadomi ich złośliwości. To jedynie symbol, nic ponadto. A więc jasne jak najbardziej. Noście czosnek, obnoście się z nim, wieszajcie go i mówcie cieniom, że się nie lękacie. Jeśli jednak pragniecie nadnaturalnej ochrony, będziecie musieli poszperać głębiej w zapomnianych tajemnicach i okultystycznych zwyczajach. Tak bowiem przedstawia się prawda, bracia. Czosnek nie odstrasza wampira, lecz wszelkie świeże rośliny sprawiają mu ból. Zupełnie jakby jego ciało nie znosiło elementów pochodzenia botanicznego. Widziałem kiedyś wściekłego wulpa, który uciekł zmagnięty różą. Dokładnie tak, zwykłą różą. Byłem świadkiem, jak agresywny Ekon upadł na kolana i błagał o litość, ukłuty drewnianym kołkiem. Oddałbym lewą rękę, by dowiedzieć się, dlaczego wampiry tak ostro reagują na świeże zioła, rośliny i drewno. Fragment odkrywania cienia, jak i podco autorstwa Ushera Teltri, mistrza Bractwa Stół Świętego Pawła. Okej. Słabości wampirów, tak? No spoko. Tutaj jeszcze coś było, zdaje się.
Disgust on every street corner. The daily routine.
No gościu jest sobą obrzydzony, co jest przykre trochę. Tak, był tam człowiek, którego dałam radę nawet podsłuchać. Tu jest Thelma Hawcroft, Pippa, Sin. Tutaj ktoś jest jeszcze, ale tam jest zamknięte przecież. Tak, tam jest zamknięte. Czyli jest ktoś za zamkniętymi drzwiami. Ciekawe. Kogo nie jestem w stanie poznać? A z panią mogę pogadać, tak?
I'm Dr. Jonathana Reida, the new surgeon here at the Pembroke.
Dr. Swansea has already told us about you, sir. I'm Nurse Gwyneth Brannigan. Welcome to the Pembroke Hospital.
Did he really? It's a good thing I wasn't hoping to keep a low profile.
All members of staff have already read about your new blood transfusion technique. Dr. Swansea made sure of that.
I see. Well, I'm a little surprised, but I suppose I'll just have to deal with this unexpected notoriety.
You must know, blood transfusions are Dr. Swansea's primary subject of research. He is convinced it is the future.
Ciekawe.
How are things here?
Not good, to say the least. We're struggling against an invisible enemy, more lethal than any bullet from a gun. It's hard, Doctor.
An invisible enemy? Quite a poetic term for a disease, especially from a nurse.
Sorry, Doctor. These last few weeks have been exhausting. We could all do with a good night's sleep.
Do you think this hospital can survive the epidemic?
We are all volunteers here, and we're trying to hold fast, but how do we beat an invisible killer? Some nurses have already resigned.
I'm not familiar with all the staff yet. Perhaps you could help me.
Brilliant professionals, most of them. Dr. Swansea has a gift for recruiting talent.
Most of them. Is there a problem I should know about, nurse?
It would be inappropriate for me to speak ill of a colleague.
Is there anyone that stands out?
Well, I have never met someone as dedicated as Dr. Tippett's. He should be a standard for us all here. If only he were younger.
Why should his age be a problem?
I guess it's fair to say he's always pushing himself to the limits. He just doesn't know when to stop and get some rest.
Doktor Corcoran Tippett, tak? Corcoran jest wykończony bezustanną pracą, ale nie chce jednak zrobić przerwy. Krąg społeczny Gwyneth Brannigan.
Nurse Brannigan, if you do know something, please tell me. Anything you say will be held in confidence.
No. I may disagree with some conduct, but in the end, everybody is doing their best.
Ojejku, z nią o niczym nie porozmawiam,
Goodbye,
widzę.
nurse. Call me if you need assistance.
Dostałam 10 punktów doświadczenia z tego, co widzę, po tym jak z nią porozmawiałam. Czy ktoś jest tutaj obok mnie jakoś? Tam są ludzie jeszcze. Siema. Tam jest ta baba, do której nie dotrę. Milton Hooks. Tak, jest tutaj. Dzień dobry, panie Milton. Pan jest handlarzem, co nie?
Good evening,
Chyba.
Doctor. Still trying to save lives?
Jasne. Czemu nie?
How is the situation around here?
You want to hear the situation is all right? It's fucking awful. We lack everything, and it's getting worse every day.
Are you really smuggling weapons through the hospital?
And why not? I've already been attacked by patients, you know, and by gang members willing to steal my money.
But you're not defending yourself. You're selling guns to civilians.
You keep people alive your own way, Doctor. I offer them another way to protect their health.
Też opcja.
Why do you have such a mediocre reputation among your colleagues, Milton?
Fuck them. Nobody knows the horrors I've seen since working here. This city was sick long before the epidemic, Dr. Reid.
I know it's a difficult task, but correct me if I'm wrong. Is this not the job you are paid to do?
I've seen babies left to die while their brothers were properly fed. Underage girls and boys sold to all manner of perverts.
I'm sorry, I don't know what to say.
Yeah, exactly. We lack words. So excuse me if I don't look on the bright side of life.
Dobra, co my tu jeszcze mamy? Co możemy? Osobiste pytania jakieś mamy?
Do you know that Nurse Hawkins is thinking of leaving the hospital?
That's not a surprise. We've talked about it already.
Does it not bother you?
Sometimes I think she may be right. We should run away while we can. Question is, where can we go? Where is it safe?
Czyli to chyba wszystko. To do
I'd like to
milimetra
see your
targu.
goods.
Wise choice, Dr. Reid. A reliable gun is what everybody needs these days.
Dobra, zobaczmy, czy ja coś faktycznie mogę od ciebie kupić. Mamy tą całą strzelbę. Tutaj chyba od gościa kupowałam, tak mi się wydaje, niewielki fragment zwyczajnego uchwytu. Czy ja mogę ci coś sprzedać, typie? No niby mogę. Próbki i składniki. Rozcieńczona krzepka krew. Broni, moduły. Czy ja mam czegoś sporo? Mogę smaru troszeczkę sprzedać. D. Chciałam F wziąć, żeby dać, nie wiem, 5 na przykład. Tego, nie wiem. Dobra, póki co zostawmy sobie amunicja. Mamy jakieś śmieci, buteleczka i buteleczka taniego ginu, butelka taniego ginu. Dobra, zobaczmy, w sensie póki co sobie nie sprzedawajmy jakichś rzeczy, mimo wszystko mogą się przydać jakieś te właśnie, no rzeczy po prostu. Jestem ciekawa, czy ja mogę sprzedawać broń, którą mam, bo w sumie nie widziałam jeszcze tej opcji, ale kto to tam wie?
At least that mistress of the dark has stopped following me.
Nikogo widzę, nie mam tutaj do podsłuchania. Przykra sprawa, szklana fiolka. Dobra, panie, pogadajmy.
Good evening, sir.
So it is true. The famous Dr. Reid has joined us. I can't think of any better news during these terrible times.
Do we know each other?
Actually, yes. We met once before at the Rockefeller University in New York.
Dr. Tippett, yes, I remember. I was assisting Professor Carell in his research about coronary bypasses. He had nothing but praise for you.
He was also very confident about your future. And look at you now. Eminent surgeon and blood transfusion specialist.
What can you tell me about the staff in the hospital?
Some are really good, and others are not so good. But during this troubled period, there is no time for slander. I prefer to focus on the positive character traits.
Any opinion about the management?
I don't always agree with Dr. Swansea's reserve, but I must admit he does all he can to keep this facility running during this crisis.
Ah, yes, the burden of command. I was fed up with this concept while serving as a medical officer.
Don't get me wrong. Swansea's a good administrator. I just wish he would get out of his office now and again.
Tell me more about cherished people, then.
Nurse Brannigan is a pearl. She is the most helpful and dedicated nurse I've ever worked with. A clever and cheerful woman.
You really seem to admire her skills.
Zobaczmy. Corcoran uważa, że Gwyneth Brannigan ma znacznie wyższe kwalifikacje niż zwyczajna pielęgniarka. Okej.
I'll go even
Czekaj, aha, tutaj. Zdaniem Corcorana Tippetsa Gwyneth ma zbyt wysokie kwalifikacje, aby być pielęgniarką.
Further, if
Dwie
she was a
wskazówki na raz
man,
dostaliśmy.
she would be a damn fine practitioner.
What is the Pembroke Hospital situation? And please, speak freely.
This hospital is not exactly the best of London. I'm sure you are used to working in a better environment.
It's more than enough. In any case, the personnel of a hospital are much more important to me than the building.
Don't be misled by appearances, Dr. Reid. This hospital does not lack talented people. It just lacks hope.
You're exhausting yourself, Corcoran. Maybe you should think about preserving your strength.
No, we must keep on healing all those poor souls. We are the last rampart before chaos. Once more unto the breach.
This is no time for self-pity. It is the last thing our patients
Dobra, spróbujmy, to nieodpowiedzialna postawa.
Your attitude is irresponsible, Doctor. Believe me, I've seen so many medical errors caused by exhaustion during the war.
You're right, this is a war, Dr. Reid, and I don't intend to surrender.
Aha. Dobra, tutaj nic
Goodbye,
osobistego
Dr.
nic nie zapytam. O nic osobistego nie zapytam. Goddammit. Nie umiem mówić.
Good evening, Nurse Brennan.
Good evening.
Tak, z nią jeszcze bym chciała sprawdzić, czy mogę porozmawiać o jakiś ten... O właśnie, patrzcie,
Why
poczekaj.
does Dr. Tippett claim you're the main reason he keeps working, despite his fatigue?
If it wasn't for him, I probably would have left the Pembroke years ago.
Dr. Tippett does not think of you as just a nurse anymore, does he?
If you're suggesting he's not taking my gender into consideration when it comes to medical practice and knowledge, I really hope he doesn't.
Okej, idzie zrozumieć. Dobra, w takim razie chyba to wszystko. To chyba wszystko, wydaje mi się. Tak więc... No mamy coś do zrobienia, to jest pewne. Tutaj coś jest do przeszukania również, z tego co widziałam. Wydawało mi się przynajmniej. Czy coś tutaj znajdę ja ciekawego? Nie mam zielonego pojęcia. Pewnie nie. Gdzieś tutaj jest jeszcze ten cały Clay Cox. Pippa Hawkins. Gwyneth. Tu jest Milton. Tu jest ten Clay Cox. Wróć w ten sposób. Dzień dobry.
Good evening.
Coś tam o mnie gadali.
Dr. Reid, still working at night, I see. I like that.
And why is that?
People who don't sleep at night always seem more alive to me. More
Ironia.
interesting, one way or another.
Okej, co my tu jeszcze mamy? W ogóle czekajcie,
You're
badanie
lucky to
lekarskie,
be
zobaczmy.
alive, Mr. Cox. I hope you're starting to take better care of yourself.
This place is full of sickness and decay. How could I get better in such a dump?
Aha, nie mam lekarstwa, więc nie mogę mu podać, ale widzę, że potrzebuję właśnie badania lekarskiego, żeby podać lekarstwo. Okej, dobrze wiedzieć.
Do you ever think about that poor fellow I saw you push in the water?
The wound he gave me will make sure I don't forget him. Still fucking hurts. Boss had cut me good.
That man was determined to murder you. You almost died.
What a surprise. The first time I met him, he nearly shit himself. Fucking coward. I guess revenge gives you balls.
What did he want? Revenge?
I recently had to kill his brother. Poor arsehole thought it would be easy to return the favour.
Ciekawe. Clay zabił brata mężczyznę, który próbował odebrać mu życie.
Only the strongest survive, then? Survival at all costs. Is that all you think about?
I'm the toughest bastard you'll ever meet, Dr. Reid. And I don't give a fuck what you think of me.
Dobra, w takim razie co jeszcze? Pobyt w szpitalu,
How is your
tak?
hospitalization going, Mr. Cox?
This is a shitty place with shitty staff. But as long as I'm treated all right, I'll be fine.
What's wrong with the hospital?
Come on, Dr. Reid. The place is a dump. Smelly, sad, and dirty.
But you're alive thanks to the efforts and dedication of the staff here, aren't you?
What are you expecting, a medal? I thought that saving lives was just part of the job. Must be an unsatisfactory profession at this time, I'm sure.
No ta.
What's wrong with the Pembroke staff?
That bastard you sent to bring me here, Milton. I thought he was going to break all my bones before I reached my bed.
I see. Any other smart comments?
The nurses aren't too ugly. Especially that foxy one, Nurse Crane. Pretty brunette, tough attitude, all like that.
Urocze. Nie ma co. Dobra, stąd to chyba wszystko. Osobiste pytanie jeszcze jakieś, tak?
How long do you think you can escape the law, Clay?
I know this city like the back of my hand, Doc. I know its streets, who to pay, who to avoid, and who to bully. I won't get caught.
We can't escape the consequences of our actions. The past catches up with us in the end.
I ain't afraid of death. I don't hide who I am. I live my life honestly, which is more than I could say for most folks.
And who are you, then?
I'm the leader of the Wet Boot Boys. One day I'll leave this shitty place and punch in the face all who thought I would not come back.
Ciekawe. Clay planuje pozostać przywódcą szejki po powrocie do zdrowia. Okej, ciekawe, właśnie jak powiedziałam. Życie w Londynie, nic nowego. Dobra, to żegnam w takim razie. Nic więcej mi to nie da, tak? Gdzie ja bym miała szukać pozostałych ludzi? Bo wiem, że jeszcze są jacyś ludzie tutaj. Tylko gdzie? O, właśnie tutaj jakby ze ścianą, tak? Dobra, to na tej podstawie spróbujemy tam dotrzeć. To będzie jakoś w tym kierunku, co nie? O, tutaj jest coś otwartego. Harvey. Doktor jakiś. O, właśnie, tutaj jest coś. Tu jest coś właśnie. Nie jestem pewna, wydaje mi się, że to mogło być coś, co się otworzyło dopiero niedawno, ale... Dobra, porozmawiajmy w takim razie najpierw z pacjentem.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Reid. Can I help at all?
No.
Really? Why are you here then?
I don't want to talk. My throat hurts too much.
I suppose that this pain is the reason you're here. Is someone taking care of you?
Yes. And no.
Could you at least tell me your name, sir?
Mortimer. Mortimer Goswick.
How painful is your throat, Mr. Goswick?
So painful I'd rather not talk at all, Doctor.
I'm sure you realize a doctor and his patient have to communicate, sir. Would it help if I gave you some paper and a pen?
Not really.
I see. Then maybe it's not just your throat that hurts, Mr. Goswick. Perhaps your sore throat is just the consequence of something more hurtful.
Yes, maybe. But I don't want to talk or even write about it now.
Rozumiem.
How
To
painful.
widzę...
I'll let you get some rest then.
Aha, czyli po prostu kończy się dialog, tak? Czy ja tutaj coś mam w ogóle do podniesienia? Nie, do podniesienia, nie wydaje mi się. Ale ja bym chciała z tobą jeszcze porozmawiać, panie. Twoje życie w Londynie. To samo, osobiste pytania.
Tell me about yourself, Mr. Goswick.
I don't want to talk, Doctor.
Aha, czyli on generalnie po prostu nie chce rozmawiać. W ogóle za Chiny nie. I tyle. Mortimer Goswick. Tutaj jeszcze pani i ta dwójka, którą ja akurat kojarzę, że się dopiero później odkrywa w tym miejscu, czyli w zasadzie prawie wszystkich poznałam, tak? Z tego co widzę, tutaj kurka wodna, ta jedna stracona wskazówka mnie irytuje skrajnie, z tym jeszcze nie gadałam. Rekesz Chadana. No, dokładnie. Dobra, wróć wobec tego.
I have to go now, sir.
Wobec tego jeszcze sobie porozmawiamy z damą. Jak tylko sobie usiądzie, się rozsiądzie, to właśnie dopiero będę mogła rozmawiać.
Can I help you?
It's my son who needs you, sir.
I'm Dr. Jonathana Reida. How can I help your son?
I'm Beatrice Goswick, mother of Mortimer Goswick. Could you check on him, please, Dr. Reid? I've heard much of your talents as a physician.
What can you tell me about yourself, Mrs. Goswick?
Not much to say. Just take care of my Mortimer and I'll cover all the expenses. That's all that matters.
Are you really that rich? Most of the patients here are of a more humble origin, if I may say so.
Yes, thanks to my husband. May he rest in peace. I can cover any needed medical expenses.
May I ask if you have an occupation, Mrs. Goswick?
I'm a teacher by profession. I teach young women who are more ambitious about their futures than their families.
What do you think of your reception here? Any complaints?
I have had the uttermost reservations about this hospital since we arrived. But we had no other choice, considering the state of emergency.
Is there something in particular that's bothered?
Beatrice nie jest przekonana co do skuteczności służby zdrowia w szpitalu Pembroke.
Some of the staff were not especially welcoming. I suspect they're not accustomed to dealing with patients of such social standing.
Okay.
Tell me more about your arrival at the Pembroke Hospital. What gave you such a bad first impression?
The ambulance driver was quite rude, for a start. And that nurse, Miss Hawkins, seems to have quite a dubious attitude.
What do you mean?
She managed to secure a bed for my son despite the epidemic. It was a relief, but it wasn't cheap.
O proszę, Pippa Hawkins. Pippa rezerwuje łóżka dla tych pacjentów, którzy będą w stanie za nie zapłacić. No proszę.
She charged you for a bed?
Yes, and I paid without question, considering the urgency of the situation.
I share your concern, Mrs. Goswick. Be sure that I'll talk to the people involved.
I don't expect compensation, Dr. Reid. But I'm aware such behavior would not be tolerated in other hospitals.
No dobra, jeszcze osobiste pytania tutaj mamy, których nie zadam. Rozumiem.
Goodbye, Mrs. Goswick.
Tak, żegnamy wobec tego panią i mamy 490 punktów doświadczenia, co jest ładnym zyskiem. Czy kurka wodna jakąś tutaj mogę podsłuchać? No niespecjalnie. Dobra, moi mili, myślę, że w tym momencie sobie zakończymy. Tak więc dzięki wielkie za oglądanie. Mam nadzieję, że odcinek ten wam się podobał i że będziecie też oglądali odcinki następne. Zostawcie komentarz, łapkę w górę, bądź zasubskrybujcie kanał, będzie mi niezmiernie miło. I do usłyszenia, mam nadzieję, następnym razem. Cześć!